I guess the proof of that will be in the pudding because I don't want to write Dana White off by any means. He's head of a successful business in the form of UFC. And look, if you're a true UFC fan, I wouldn't say I'm a hardcore UFC fan like I am a hardcore boxing fan. I'd say I'm somewhere in between a casual and intermediary. Intermediary, if there's such a thing as a intermediary UFC fan or anything type of fan. But I missed the last UFC event, but I'll stay up sometimes for some of the other ones. But you'll know that UFC right now isn't as hot as it once was. And if you're a true UFC fan, you'd say that. If you're not, um, you wouldn't say that it was because it is on a little bit of a dip. But he has built a brilliant business. But that's on the back of not giving the fighters, the leading lights, the greatest amount of pay that they deserve, which is why these UFC fighters jump over to boxing because they know the different model allows them to get a bigger cut of the pay-per-view or the gate or just a higher uh, standout pay from higher basic pay from the fight that they're getting. So that's why Francis Ngannou's done that. That's why Conor McGregor has done that. That's why you're seeing Jorge Masvidal and Nate Diaz have fights. That's why all that is happening. That's why Tyron Woodley's jumped over to boxing and he's fought Jake Paul. That's why some of these fighters go to be bare knuckle and such because there's riches to be had and a larger share of the pie to be had elsewhere. Now, that might not be such a big problem in the short term because you have the backing of Saudis and their money to hand out those checks. But what happens when you want to fit it into what has worked for Dana? Dana's going to do what's worked for Dana, and he's going to say, "This is the way it works. We're going to try and fit boxing into this box." I'm not so sure if that is going to work in terms of him being the right person to take the job. Look, it's clear that the Saudis and Eddie's kind of said that in the recent interviews off the back of it. He says, "Oh, the relationship needs some work, but it's great, but it needs some work." That kind of tells you that it weren't as great as it has been thought of. Because if you were to be clued in on the deal, if you were in on the deal, and the same thing applies to Frank Warren, if you were in on the deal, you would have been up there with Turkey Al Sheikh and Dana White shaking their hands, and you're not in on the deal. The deals like that don't happen where they happen and then you're clued in afterwards and you take a percentage afterwards. It just doesn't work like that.
And it's not Eddie who's got the flag, is it?
Say again?
It's not Eddie who's got the flag, the metaphorical flag that's with the person who can best handle boxing.
Yeah. So Dana, look, I think Dana's made a lot of mistakes. I think Dana has a lot of holes, I guess, in terms of from the fighter side, but you can't deny the product and you can't deny the production. You can't deny that fight fans, even if it's not the best of fight, you will get the best versus the best, or as close you can get it without all the politics, without all the problems, without all the promoters getting involved and stifling whatever it is. And that is something to look forward to. I just don't know if we'll get there because of the other things, the other problems, the fighters who we're supposed to be put in as the top priority when UFC kind of put themselves as top priority. I just don't know if it will all work.
Yeah, I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. I will go to the chat shortly also, but just to point out the specifics, it's Turkey Al Sheikh as the head of the General Entertainment Authority and Seller, who are a subsidiary of the Public Wealth Fund in Saudi Arabia. They're the ones who've done the deal with UFC. So there is going to be, not with UFC, with TKO. So there will be a lot of money early on in this arrangement, similar to one of the chatters was talking about early on in the Riyadh season boxing shows. I don't think we'll have to worry too much about the boxers not being paid enough and the best not fighting the best now for the first year or two. But that could change quite quickly, as Eamon alluded to there. Secret Dance Move says, Ball versus Dehaney is sold out. Secret Dance Move, we've been on for, nearly 15 minutes, and you already said that we've sold out, Turkey sold out, and now Ball versus Dehaney has sold out. And then you said 3 tickets left, which means it hasn't sold out. So none of us have actually sold out. Zinc Ubus says, of course he can. Connect UFC with the WWE guys for a good show, then add Turkey's money. Yeah, I mean, cross-promotion is going to be incredibly important, I think. 1 belt per weight class. KO, presumably not Kevin Owens, says, biggest issue with boxing promoters today is inability to build stars. TKO will show how to do this from the ground up. Pugilistic Soldier says, granted, sometimes Eddie Churn can be arrogant, but Dana White takes it to the next level every interview. There you go. Jack Dutton on the 45. Do you think Turkey's plan is to absorb all the 4 major belts into the ring title? So is there only one champion per weight class? I think he'll want only one champion per weight class, but that's going to rely on either collaboration with the existing sanctioning bodies or beating them into the dirt. And we'll talk about beating competition into the dirt and how that is pretty much the TKO model shortly. Trip to the Moon says they can't pay fighters low purses because the promoters outside of this will just pay those fighters more, like what already happens. They all compete for fighters based off how much they can pay. I would imagine they will try to absorb the fighters they want early on and then start to develop their own as well. You know, they've got the benefit of a certain amount of money now. It won't last forever, but they'll look to make a big enough footprint there, similar to how PBC did, that then they can then drop the quality of the product and still sustain themselves. Zinkubu says, all the top fighters fighting regularly or they go to the bottom of the ladder. The top fighters will fight each other to get a chance at the title. I mean, that's the dream, isn't it? But I'm not sure if that's actually going to happen. Where are we? Sorry, the chat's going faster than I am, which isn't much of a feat, to be fair. Pugilistic Soldier says, best fighting the best? Rubbish. What about John Jones fighting Tom Aspinall? Exactly. MB says, can you explain the model they have planned? I followed none of this last week. They haven't been explicit about it, but it seems like they want to run it as an independent entity outside of working with other promoters, from what Dana White said in the press conference. They didn't go into specifics. Zinkubu says to Jack Dutton, that's exactly what they intend to do. Turkey can't buy the 4 sanctioning bodies because they're not-for-profit organisations. There's no mechanism that will allow to take control of them. Well, there are some mechanisms, just not, official ones. Secret Dance Move says, yeah, UFC viewing figures have decreased dramatically and has already peaked and are now on the down curve. I think this is why Dana is moving towards boxing, as he sees the writing on the wall for MMA. Jack Dutton says, Turkey wouldn't allow himself to be photographed with the 4 belts at the Canelo Skull Presser, just the ring belt and the undisputed belt. Mr. T says, reckon fish eyes, based on the emojis, will worm his way in. Is he a fish or a worm? Make up your mind. I assume you're referring to the esteemed Hall of Fame promoter and my good friend Frank Warren when you say fish eyes there. I imagine he will play a part in at least the first year or so, but after that, who knows? Dana White has already made it clear he doesn't really want to work with the established boxing promoters. Captain Obvious says they don't have limitless funds. TKO have not got involved in this to lose money. They want to make a profit, but they will be assisted very much in that by the Public Wealth Fund from Saudi to start with. And I think that's probably a key factor in why Dana White has made this move now rather than the many times he's talked about over the last 10 years. Secret Dance, who says, also, Warren just signed a big fat contract with DAZN, which Turkey owns the boxing side of, so he's okay. It's Hearn that should be worried as his DAZN contract is coming to an end soon. Pugilistic Soldier says, John Jones versus Aspinall, best not fighting the best. That's just one example. Bully Boxer says, what I can't work out is how is Turkey going to render the governing bodies obsolete? I mean, he'll have to bring them into the tent, won't he? I would imagine. And I don't think, based on how the sanctioning bodies have worked with Turkey and the General Entertainment Authority so far, I don't think that'll be particularly difficult. Toby Bartlett says, how is Dana going to explain to the UFC fighters boxers deserve this amount per purse and the UFC fighters only get a smaller amount? Well, yeah, if the percentages are different, I mean, but then you've got to say, are the boxers generating more of that income? Are they more responsible for the income that's, the revenue that they're generating more so than in UFC? Is it the concept, the UFC model that's more responsible? That will be the argument, I imagine. Thunder Road says, Danny's background does look different. Yeah, I'm in my front room. More natural light. Chat, don't forget to hit the thumbs up. Yeah, if you like my new backdrop, please do hit the thumbs up, or even if you don't. Truth Wins UK rather says Turkey took over. Scott says, I think prospects and developing pro boxers get paid less than UFC fighters. Obviously, primetime boxers get paid a lot more than UFC stars. Yeah, there's a lot of money in boxing concentrated in the top 1% and 2%. Sean says, Frank and Eddie have had it too good for too long. TKO will shake things up for the good. Secret Dance, who says Turkey also has an operable brain tumor, so could go anytime. This is not confirmed. This has been a long-standing rumor, but it's not confirmed. Jack Dutton says the 4 sanctioning bodies not for profit. Are you sure? They live for making money from sanctioning fees. Yeah, but they're officially not for profit organisations, which will make it very problematic for TKO or indeed Turkey to buy them out. Secret Dance Move says UFC have missed out on lots of best versus best, like Fedor versus the UFC heavyweight roster, and recently Ngannou versus John Jones. Whizbits Random Gaming says plan is to spend, eliminate other promotions. Yeah, basically. DB Coupon says it's a no from me. Dana White is the devil himself. I agree with everything Bob Arum has to say about that demonic sport organization. Is that the same Bob Arum who was cozying up to Kinahan for quite some time? Just checking where our moral compass is. The same Bob Arum who said yesterday I was lying, today I'm telling the truth.